My name is Riley Park, and the day I first stepped onto the sprawling, sun-drenched campus of Evergreen University as a nervous second-year transfer student, I felt like I had been dropped into the middle of someone else's dream, bright, loud, and completely out of reach. The air hummed with laughter and the distant thump of bass from orientation parties, while groups of confident students streamed past me like I was invisible. My heart hammered so hard against my ribs that I could barely breathe. I was the textbook definition of a nobody Omega, thick black-rimmed glasses constantly sliding down my nose, baggy hoodies swallowing my small, slender frame, and a backpack stuffed with engineering textbooks that had earned me this scholarship but somehow made me feel even smaller in this glittering world of wealth and status. I kept my head down, whispering to myself that if I just stayed quiet, studied hard, and never drew attention, maybe I could survive here without getting crushed. But then I saw him. Edwin Hayes, the almighty enigma of the campus. He was even more popular than most lecturers. That's to tell you the kind of celebrity he is. The moment his name first brushed my ears in the cafeteria line, that's the campus enigma right there. Something inside me shifted like the ground tilting beneath my feet. Everyone whispered about him. The final year enigma from one of the richest families in the city, star player on the basketball team, engineering prodigy who already had job offers from tech giants before he even graduated. He drove a sleek black sports car that growled through the parking lot like a warning, and his presence alone seemed to command the entire campus. He is tall, broad-shouldered, with a sharp jawline that could cut glass, his hair that fell just right across his forehead, and those piercing eyes that never lingered on anyone who wasn't on his level. His scent hit me first, even from across the quad, deep sunflower scent mixed with something dangerously electric, the kind of aura that made every Omega's instincts flare to life whether we wanted them to or not. He was everything I wasn't, confident, untouchable, radiating power like the sun. And yet, he was a walking red flag. Stories floated around like smoke. How he openly avoided Omegas, how he'd laugh coldly at anyone who dared flirt, how he treated our kind like we were beneath him, like we were distractions he couldn't be bothered with. Edwin Hayes doesn't do Omegas, they said. He breaks hearts without even trying. I knew I should have stayed far away. Every rational part of my shy, nerdy brain screamed at me to bury my nose back in my textbooks and pretend he didn't exist. But the very first time I watched him on the basketball court, late afternoon sun painting the court in gold, the squeak of sneakers echoing, the crowd of admirers cheering from the sidelines, my heart betrayed me completely. He leapt for a dunk, muscles rippling under his jersey, sweat glistening along the sharp line of his neck, and when he landed that perfect shot, his deep, rich laugh rang out across the entire gym like music I wasn't allowed to hear. In that single moment, something cracked open inside my chest. A wild, hopeless crush that flooded me with warmth and terror all at once. My cheeks burned behind my glasses. My pulse raced so fast I felt dizzy. I told myself it was stupid, pathetic even, a low-class Omega like me with my scholarship worries and my plain face, dreaming about the untouchable enigma. Yet every single evening after that, I found myself slipping into the bleachers like a ghost, hidden in the shadows where no one would notice the quiet kid with the glasses. I'd clutch my notebook to my chest, pretending to study, while my eyes stayed glued to him, watching the way he moved with such effortless grace, the way his teammates clapped his back in admiration, the way his voice carried commands that everyone obeyed without question. Under my breath, so softly no one else could hear, I'd whisper the words I wished I could shout. Go Edwin, you've got this. You're incredible. My heart swelled with every point he scored, ached with every time he wiped sweat from his brow, and twisted painfully when he walked right past my section without ever glancing up. He never saw me, not even once. Not the shy transfer student who showed up rain or shine, not the Omega whose entire world now revolved around stolen glimpses of a boy who would never look twice at someone like me. I tried to stop myself. I'd lie in my tiny dorm room at night, staring at the ceiling, telling myself that a crush this hopeless would only end in tears, that an alpha like Edwin Hayes was destined for Omegas from his own world, beautiful and bold and worthy of his attention. I reminded myself of every red flag, every whispered warning, every story of how he treated people like me. Stay away, Riley, I'd mutter into my pillow, my voice trembling with the ache I couldn't shake. You're nothing to him. You'll only get hurt. But the very next evening, my feet would carry me back to those bleachers anyway, pulse racing with forbidden excitement, my shy heart dreaming of a world, however impossible, where the campus enigma might one day turn those sharp eyes toward me and actually see the boy who had been quietly cheering for him all along. Little did I know, that impossible dream was about to become the most painful, beautiful, heartbreaking game of my life. The night of the freshers' party arrived like a whirlwind I wasn't ready for. The entire campus transformed into a pulsing sea of lights, thumping music, and bodies moving in rhythms I had never learned to follow. I had promised myself I would slip in quietly, maybe grab one soda from the corner table, smile politely at a few new faces, and disappear back to my dorm before anyone noticed the shy transfer Omega with the glasses who still felt like an outsider in this glittering world. My heart was already fluttering with leftover nerves from the week's lectures, but I told myself this was my chance to blend in, to prove I could survive here without hiding forever. The air smelled of sweet punch, cheap perfume, and the faint electric buzz of excitement that made every Omega's instincts tingle. I stayed pressed against the wall, hoodie sleeves pulled over my hands, glasses fogging slightly from the heat of the crowd, watching everyone else laugh and dance like they belonged. Then the seniors arrived. The doors swung open with a burst of louder cheers. Edwin Hayes walked in with his pack of loud, cocky friends. Those same alphas who ruled every hallway like kings. The music seemed to dip for a second as heads turned. Girls whispered, guys straightened up, and the whole room shifted its gravity toward him. Edwin moved through the crowd like he owned it, that tall, powerful frame cutting through the lights, his hair catching every flash, his sharp jaw set in that effortless half-smile that made my stomach twist with the same hopeless ache I'd felt on the bleachers. His friends were laughing already, slapping backs, ordering drinks like the party had only just begun because they were here. I tried not to stare, but my eyes kept drifting back to him. My secret crush, the enigma who had never once noticed the quiet kid cheering from the shadows. I shrank deeper into my corner, pulse racing, telling myself to look away, to breathe, to remember every red flag that screamed he was dangerous. But something felt different tonight. From the moment they claimed the big circular table near the center, I felt like someone or maybe people glancing at me. I turned to the side to look and saw Edwin's friends glancing my way, then leaning in to mutter something, then glancing again. At first I thought it was my imagination, that my glasses were playing tricks under the strobe lights. I adjusted them nervously, sipped my soda, pretended to check my phone. But the stares kept coming, quick, deliberate, almost amused, like they were sizing me up, talking about me. My cheeks burned hot. Why are they glaring at me like that? Why the nerdy Omega no one ever noticed? Edwin himself wasn't looking yet. He was lounging back in his chair, one arm draped casually over the back, laughing at whatever story his friends were telling. But every few seconds, one of them would nod toward my corner, and the whole group would burst into fresh laughter, their eyes flicking my direction again and again. My heart started hammering so loud I could hear it over the bass. Was I in trouble? Had I done something wrong? I wanted to melt into the wall, disappear, run back to my dorm and hide under the covers like the pathetic, hopeless boy I was. Yet I couldn't move. Some strange, magnetic pull kept me rooted there, watching them watch me, my shy Omega instincts flaring with a terrifying mix of fear and forbidden thrill. The music swelled. The crowd cheered as someone started a game of truth or dare at their table. Loud voices, clinking bottles, roars of laughter that carried across the gym. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I saw the bottle spin, saw the way the group exploded with excitement when it landed on someone. More glances flew my way. More smirks. More hushed conversations that ended in Edwin shaking his head, still relaxed, still untouchable. My mouth went dry. The stares were constant now, every few seconds pulling me into their orbit without mercy. I felt exposed, small, my glasses sliding down my nose as sweat beaded on my skin. Part of me wanted to bolt, but another part, the part that had whispered his name in the dark bleachers, kept me frozen, heart pounding with wild, stupid hope. Then everything stopped. Edwin Hayes stood up. The entire gym seemed to hold its breath. The music didn't actually quiet, but it felt like it did. Heads turned in slow motion as the campus enigma rose from his chair, towering, confident, that powerful enigma presence cutting through the crowd like a blade. No one had ever seen him do this. Not once. Edwin Hayes didn't approach Omegas. He didn't walk across rooms for anyone beneath his circle. Yet here he was, eyes locked straight on me, long strides carrying him through the sea of stunned students who parted like water. Whispers exploded everywhere. No way he is walking up to the nerdy fresher. My legs felt weak. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't move, couldn't think, Couldn't do anything but stare as the boy I had secretly loved from afar walked right up to me, stopping only inches away. His scent hit me full force, wrapping around my senses until the world narrowed to just him. "Riley Park," he said, voice low and smooth, the first time I had ever heard my name on his lips. The whole party went dead silent around us, every eye burning into my back. Be my boyfriend for graduation. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it might break. Shock flooded me like ice and fire at once. Disbelief, terror, and a wild, dizzying rush of joy I had no right to feel. The campus enigma was asking me out to be his boyfriend. The shy, low-class Omega nerd no one ever saw. I could feel hundreds of eyes on us, the stunned silence cracking into frantic whispers and gasps. My hands trembled so badly and my glasses fogged completely. I opened my mouth, but only a tiny, breathless nod came out, because how could I say no to the boy I had been dreaming about for months? In that single heartbeat, everything changed. The party erupted around us, but all I could see was Edwin's sharp eyes holding mine, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I had won in life. This was a dream come through for me. But never in my wildest dreams would I believe that the same feared, arrogant campus enigma was standing so close to me, and I was breathing the same air as he. It felt unbelievable. The weeks after the freshers' party blurred into something I never thought possible. Edwin started showing up in my life like he belonged there, and every time he did, my carefully guarded heart cracked open a little wider. At first, it felt like he was trying hard to get my attention to make his friends notice us together. He'd slide into the seat next to me in the engineering library during late-night study sessions, long legs stretched out under the table, his expensive leather jacket slung over the back of the chair like he owned the whole quiet floor, while his friends watched from the far tables, smirking and occasionally raising their phones like they were documenting evidence of the greatest prank in university history. I told myself not to read into it. I repeated the mantra every time my pulse jumped when his knee brushed mine under the table or when he leaned in to point at something in my notebook, his breath warm against the shell of my ear. This was fake. He was the untouchable enigma who didn't do omegas, and I was just the convenient prop. But then the little things started piling up like kindling, and before I knew it, the fire was already burning. He remembered how I took my coffee, black with 2 sugars, and one rainy Tuesday morning he appeared outside my lecture hall by 8 a.m., holding 2 paper cups, steam curling from the lids. "Figured you'd be half asleep after pulling that all-nighter on the circuit design project," he said, pressing the warm cup into my shaking hands without meeting my eyes for too long. I stared at the cup like it was made of gold. No one had ever noticed my coffee order before. No one had ever cared enough to show up with one. My throat tightened. I mumbled a thank you so quiet I wasn't sure he heard it, but the corner of his mouth lifted and that tiny private smile lodged somewhere deep in my chest and refused to leave. We started texting at night. Nothing dramatic at first, just memes about terrible professors, complaints about group project slackers, the occasional engineering pun that made me snort laugh into my pillow at 2 a.m. Then the messages grew longer. He told me, almost casually like it didn't cost him anything, about the suffocating pressure from his family to be perfect, about how every achievement felt like another bar they raised before he could even catch his breath. I stared at those words until my eyes burned, then typed back the only honest thing I could think of, "You don't have to look perfect for me." I hit send before I could overthink it, heart slamming against my ribs, and for 10 agonizing minutes there was nothing. Then 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "You're dangerous when you're honest, Riley Park." No emoji. No joke. Just my name in his words, soft and serious, and I had to press my phone to my chest to keep from making an embarrassing sound. On a Thursday evening, in the empty rooftop study lounge nobody ever used because the door was always locked. Except Edwin apparently had a key, or maybe he just knew how to charm locks the way he charmed everything else. We'd been working on his senior capstone presentation for hours, papers and laptops spread across the low table, city lights glittering far below us through the glass wall. The air smelled faintly of rain and his scent, stronger now because we were alone, no audience, no friends watching for proof of the dare. I was explaining a torque calculation when I glanced up and realized he wasn't looking at the screen anymore. He was looking at me. His eyes were darker than usual, pupils blown wide in the dim light, and the way he watched my mouth move made every nerve in my body light up like live wires. The room suddenly felt too small, too warm, too quiet except for the soft rasp of our breathing. I faltered mid-sentence. He didn't say anything, just leaned in slowly, deliberately, giving me every chance to pull away, but I couldn't. My glasses fogged at the edges. My heart was a frantic drumbeat in my throat. His hand came up, fingertips brushing the side of my jaw so gently it felt like a question, tilting my face just enough that our mouths were a whisper apart. I could feel the heat radiating off him, could smell the faint trace of mint on his breath, could see the tiny scar above his left eyebrow I'd never noticed before. Time stretched thin and syrupy. My lips parted on a shaky inhale. His gaze dropped to my mouth again, heavy and hungry, and I thought he was going to kiss me. Then he froze. Something flickered behind his eyes, panic, maybe, or regret, and he pulled back so fast the air between us turned cold. His hand dropped. He cleared his throat, raked fingers through his hair, forced a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Sorry, I got carried away," he muttered, already turning toward the scattered papers like nothing had happened. The words landed like ice water down my spine. I sat there stunned, lips still tingling from the ghost of contact that never came, cheeks burning with humiliation and something sharper, something that tasted dangerously close to hope crushed before it could bloom. I nodded mutely, pushed my glasses up with trembling fingers, pretended to focus on the laptop screen even though the numbers blurred into nonsense. He didn't look at me again for the rest of the night. But I felt it, the shift, the crack in his armor. The way his knee kept brushing mine under the table after that, deliberate now instead of accidental. The way his texts came faster, softer, late into the night. The way he started waiting for me after every class even when his friends weren't around to witness it. I told myself it was still the dare, still the game. I told myself not to fall harder. I was already falling so deep I couldn't see the bottom anymore. Graduation day dawned bright and merciless, the kind of perfect spring morning that should have felt like celebration but instead wrapped around my chest like a slowly tightening vine. The grand auditorium was transformed into a sea of black caps and gold tassels, sunlight streaming through the tall arched windows and painting everything in warm, deceptive gold. Families filled the front rows in designer outfits and proud smiles. Cameras flashed like tiny lightning storms. The air smelled of fresh flowers, expensive cologne, and the nervous sweet scent of hundreds of newly minted graduates. I stood backstage in the borrowed navy blazer Edwin had insisted I wear. "It'll look good for the photos," he'd said with that easy half smile, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. My heart hadn't stopped racing since the moment I woke up that morning and realized today was the day we were supposed to make it official in front of the entire university. I still believed, foolishly, desperately, that the late-night texts, the almost kiss on the rooftop, the way he'd started looking at me like I was the only person in any room, I still believed some of it had become real. When they called our names for the staged couple moment, the crowd noise swelled into a roar. Edwin appeared at my side like he always did these days, tall, composed, devastatingly handsome in his tailored graduation gown, and slipped his hand into mine without hesitation. His palm was warm, steady, my fingers trembled inside his grip. We walked out onto the stage together under a spotlight that felt like it was burning straight through my skin. The dean smiled indulgently, flashes popped like fireworks. Everyone was watching. Everyone believed it. The campus enigma and the quiet Omega nerd who somehow, impossibly, had won his heart. Edwin turned to face me. Up close in that blinding light, his eyes looked different, darker, softer, almost tender. My breath caught. He cupped my face with both hands, thumbs brushing the edges of my jaw the same way he had on the rooftop, only this time there was no one to interrupt, no excuse to pull away. The world narrowed to the heat of his palms, the faint cedar smoke scent that always made my knees weak, the way his gaze dropped to my mouth like it was the only thing that mattered. "Don't be shy," he whispered, so quiet only I could hear. Then he kissed me. It started soft, lips brushing mine in a careful press that still managed to steal every molecule of air from my lungs. My hands fisted in the front of his gown on instinct, clinging onto him. The crowd erupted, cheers, whistles, gasps, applause that rolled over us like thunder, but all I could feel was him. The way his fingers slid into my hair, the way his body pressed closer until there was no space left between us, the way my entire Omega soul sang yes, finally. I thought this was the moment everything changed. I thought everything had burned away in the heat of that kiss and what was left was real. We broke apart only when the dean cleared his throat pointedly. Edwin's forehead rested against mine for one heartbeat longer than necessary. His breath came fast against my lips. Then he pulled back, gave the crowd that trademark lazy grin, raised our joined hands like we just won a championship, and the auditorium lost its mind. I floated through the rest of the ceremony in a daze, cheeks flushed, lips still tingling, replaying that kiss on an endless loop behind my eyes. When it was finally over and graduates spilled out into the sunlit quad for photos and hugs and tearful goodbyes, Edwin tugged me gently toward a quieter corner near the old oak trees, away from the worst of the crowd. My heart was so full of happiness. I turned to him, glasses slightly askew, voice small and trembling with everything I'd been too scared to say for months. Edwin, that kiss. He cut me off. Not with words at first. Just a look. The softness in his eyes vanished like smoke. His jaw tightened. His hand, still holding mine, dropped away so fast it felt like a slap. He took one step back, then another, putting space between us that suddenly felt like miles. I don't like you, Riley. The words landed flat and cold, slicing straight through the warmth still lingering in my chest. I blinked once, twice. Waiting for the punchline, the laugh, the just kidding, that never came. He kept going, voice steady, almost bored, like he was reciting lines he'd rehearsed. I never liked you, Riley. It was all a dare. My friends bet I couldn't make the whole campus believe I'd fallen for some random low-class Omega nerd. But I had to stoop low to prove them wrong. I won, Riley. That's it. Game over. Each sentence hit harder than the last. My knees threatened to give out. The quad noise faded to a dull roar in my ears. All I could hear was my own heartbeat cracking apart. But the texts, the coffee, the rooftop, my voice came out thin, broken. You even kissed me in front of everyone. Part of the act, he said flatly. Had to sell it. You were convenient. Easy to play. I stared at him, searching for any crack in the mask, any flicker of the boy who'd whispered my name at 3 a.m., who'd looked at me like I mattered. There was nothing. Just cool indifference and the faintest edge of something that might have been guilt, if I let myself hope for it. He shrugged, one sharp, careless motion. Stay away from me now. We're done. Then he turned and walked away just like that. No backward glance, no apology, no hesitation. He melted back into the crowd of laughing graduates and proud families, leaving me standing alone under the oak tree with my borrowed blazer and my shattered heart. I didn't cry right away. The shock was too big, too cold, it froze everything solid. But when the first sob finally tore out of me, I sank to the grass, arms wrapped around my knees, glasses fogging with tears I couldn't stop. Around me people celebrated. Caps sailed into the air, music played, life kept moving. Mine had just ended. The boy who had cheered for Edwin Hayes from the shadows for months, who had let himself believe he was finally seen, was discarded like yesterday's joke. And the worst part? Even then, broken, humiliated, bleeding inside, I still loved him. I still wished, with every shattered piece of me, that the kiss had been real. But it wasn't. And nothing would ever feel the same again. The weeks after graduation stretched into a numb, endless fog where every breath felt like glass in my lungs. I couldn't look in the mirror without seeing the pathetic, glasses-wearing Omega who had believed a kiss meant forever. The same reflection that had once whispered Edwin's name in the bleachers now stared back with hollow eyes and a heart that refused to stop bleeding. I tried staying hidden in my dorm, burying myself in textbooks like before, but the campus wouldn't let me forget. Whispers followed me in hallways, pitying glances from people who had cheered for the perfect couple only days earlier, and worst of all, the occasional sighting of Edwin laughing with his friends like nothing had ever happened. Each time I caught a glimpse of that tall, untouchable frame, something inside me shattered all over again. I was done being invisible. I was done being the heartbroken nerd everyone pitied. So one rainy afternoon, I made a decision that felt like jumping off a cliff. I would burn the old Riley to the ground and rise as someone no one could ever discard again. The transformation started at a sleek downtown salon I'd never dared enter before. I sat in the chair with my hands clenched in my lap while the stylist ran her fingers through my plain hair. I told her I wanted platinum blonde, bold, icy, nothing soft or shy about it. Hours later I walked out with hair that caught the streetlights, framing my face. Next came the piercing, a single silver hoop in my left ear, the sting sharp and clean, a tiny rebellion that made me feel alive. Then the tattoo, a small geometric constellation on the inside of my wrist, lines sharp and permanent, inked while I bit my lip against the pain because I needed something that would never fade the way Edwin's promises had. Contacts replaced my glasses. The world suddenly looked clearer, sharper, and so did I. Hoodies and baggy jeans went into the trash. In their place I bought fitted black shirts that hugged the subtle curves of my Omega frame, ripped jeans that sat low on my hips, and boots that made me walk taller. When I finally stood in front of my dorm mirror that night, the boy staring back wasn't the quiet scholarship kid anymore. He was hot, dangerously, magnetically hot, with platinum hair gleaming, silver hoop catching the light, tattoo peeking from his sleeve, and eyes that no longer hid behind thick lenses. Heads turned when I walked across campus the next day. Alphas who had never noticed me before now stared openly. Bad boys from the underground scene started sliding into my DMs with invitations to parties I used to avoid. For the first time I felt powerful, desired, and seen. But inside I was still breaking. Every party, every flirtatious touch, every shot of cheap liquor was just another bandage over the wound that refused to close. I laughed louder than I ever had, danced until my feet ached, let strangers pull me close on dance floors while my mind screamed Edwin's name in the silence between songs. The new look drew the wrong crowd, the ones who wanted the shiny surface without caring about the shattered pieces underneath, and I let them. Because feeling wanted, even if it was shallow and temporary, was better than feeling nothing at all. I told myself I was healing. I told myself the old Riley was dead. Yet every night when the music stopped and I lay alone in bed, the platinum hair fanned across my pillow like a lie, and the ache in my chest whispered the truth. No amount of dye or ink could erase the Omega who had once cheered for Edwin from the shadows. Then came the night that cracked everything open again. The underground club pulsed like a living thing. Bass so deep it vibrated in my bones, neon lights slicing through smoke, bodies pressed together in a haze of sweat and desire. I had drunk too much, far too much, chasing numbness in neon-colored shots that burned down my throat. The new me was supposed to be untouchable, but the alcohol stripped away the armor until all that was left was the raw, bleeding heart I'd tried to hide. I was swaying near the bar when Jax, Edwin's sleazy friend, the one who had smirked the loudest during the dare, cornered me against the sticky wall. His breath reeked of whiskey and entitlement. His hands grabbed my waist like he owned it. Edwin said he didn't want you anymore, he slurred, lips too close to my ear. So you're fair game now, pretty little Omega. That new look suits you, makes you worth the trouble. Panic exploded in my chest. I pushed at his chest, but he was bigger, stronger, and the world was spinning from the liquor. His fingers dug into my hips, pinning me harder. His mouth brushed my neck in a way that made bile rise in my throat. Stop, I gasped, voice lost in the music, fear choking me as his body pressed closer, trapping me completely. In that moment I hated myself for the transformation, for thinking a new hair color and a tattoo could protect the broken boy underneath. Tears stung my eyes. I was small again, helpless again, the same Omega who had been discarded on graduation day. Then the storm hit. A roar cut through the music, furious, primal, and suddenly Jax was ripped away from me like a rag doll. Edwin Hayes stood there in the flashing lights, chest heaving, eyes blazing with something wild and terrifying. His fist connected with Jax's jaw in a sickening crack that silenced half the club. Don't you ever freaking touch him. Edwin snarled, voice low and lethal, shoving his own friend to the floor. Jax scrambled up, wiping blood from his lip, shouting over the stunned crowd, "What the hell, man? You told us you didn't like the Omega. You won the damn dare. Why are you protecting him now?" Edwin didn't answer. He didn't even look at Jax. His eyes locked on mine, dark, stormy, filled with something I couldn't name, and before I could process the chaos, he scooped me up like I weighed nothing. One strong arm under my knees, the other cradling my back, he carried me through the parting crowd, out into the cool night air where the bass faded and the stars spun above us. My platinum hair spilled over his shoulder, my silver hoop pressed against his neck. I was drunk, dizzy, and utterly shattered, but even through the haze I felt it. The way his heart hammered against mine, the way his arms tightened like he was afraid I might disappear. I didn't understand why the boy who had broken me had just saved me from his own friend. And for the first time since that cruel hallway, the Enigma looked at me like I was the only thing in his world that mattered. But my heart, still bleeding, still guarded behind platinum armor, whispered a warning I was too exhausted to heed. This rescue didn't fix anything. It only made the pain more dangerous. I woke up to the soft glow of morning light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows, the faint scent of pheromones wrapping around me like a dangerous promise. My head throbbed from the club, but the moment my eyes focused, panic slammed into me harder than any hangover. This wasn't my dorm. This was Edwin's house, his luxurious off-campus penthouse I had only seen in blurry background photos on his friends' socials. He was sitting in the armchair beside the massive king bed, hair messy like he hadn't slept all night, those sharp eyes watching me with an intensity that made my stomach twist. The platinum-haired, tattooed version of me wanted to scream. The broken Omega underneath wanted to cry. I shot upright, sheets tangling around my legs, silver hoop catching the light as I shoved him hard in the chest. "Get away from me." My voice cracked, raw and furious, tears already burning behind my eyes. "I don't want your pity, Edwin. You made it crystal clear, you don't like Omegas like me. You never did. Don't you dare sit there pretending to be my hero after you destroyed me in front of the entire campus." I scrambled off the bed, bare feet hitting the cold marble floor, my fitted black shirt rumpled and my new edgy look suddenly feeling like the ugliest costume I'd ever worn. Every step toward the door hurt because part of me, the stupid still in love part, wanted to crawl back into those sheets and let him hold me, but I refused. I had spent months rebuilding myself so no one could ever break me again, and I wasn't about to let the same enigma who shattered my heart be the one to pick up the pieces. He didn't stop me when I left. He just sat there, silent, eyes following me until the door slammed shut behind me. I thought that was the end. But Edwin Hayes had never been one to lose. The next 2 weeks became a slow, relentless siege on every wall I had built. He started small. A single white rose left on my desk in the library with a handwritten note. I still remember the shy boy who cheered for me from the bleachers. I miss him. Then came the coffee, exactly how I used to like it, black with 2 sugar. He waited outside my classes, leaning against the wall in style, ignoring the stares and whispers, eyes only on me. When I ignored him, he showed up at my dorm with takeout from the tiny ramen place I loved back when I was still wearing glasses and hoodies. He didn't push, he didn't demand. He simply existed in my space, steady and patient, like he was willing to wait forever if that's what it took. One rainy evening I finally broke. I found him sitting on the steps outside my dorm, soaked to the bone, holding an umbrella over a small box. Inside was my old black-rimmed glasses, the exact pair I had thrown away the night I decided to become someone new. His voice was hoarse when he spoke, barely above the rain. "I'm sorry for everything, Riley. I was so blinded by my own stupid hatred for Omegas, because of my family, because of every toxic thing they drilled into me, that when I actually started feeling something real, I panicked. I pushed you away the moment that graduation kiss made it impossible to lie to myself anymore. I was terrified of how much I loved you. Terrified of admitting the almighty campus enigma had been completely undone by the nerdy transfer student with the glasses." Tears mixed with the rain on my face. My silver hoop felt suddenly heavy. The tattoo on my wrist burned like a reminder of all the armor I'd worn to survive him. He stepped closer, rain dripping from his lashes, voice breaking for the first time in all the months I had known him. "You don't have to be this new version for me, Riley. I don't want the platinum hair or the piercing or the tattoo if they're just walls to keep me out. I want the boy who blushed behind thick glasses when I sat next to him in the library. I want the Omega who made me laugh at 3 a.m. with terrible engineering puns. I want you exactly as you were the day I fell in love with you, quiet, brilliant, and brave enough to cheer for someone who didn't deserve it. You were never low class to me. You were everything I didn't know I needed." I shattered right there in the rain. We crashed into each other, lips meeting in a kiss that tasted like rain, tears, and months of unbearable longing. This time there was no audience, no dare, no fear, just us. His hands trembled as they cupped my face, mine fisted in his wet shirt like I was afraid he'd disappear. We stumbled inside, clothes falling away in a heated trail from the door to his bedroom, every touch reverent, every gasp a confession. That night, we made love like the world was ending and beginning at the same time. Edwin moved over me with a hunger that had been locked away for far too long, his mouth claiming every inch of skin like he was memorizing me. My platinum hair spilled across his pillows, my tattooed wrist wrapped around his neck, but none of it mattered anymore. He whispered against my lips, "You're mine, Riley," he said as he proceeded to mark me. The bond snapped into place like golden threads weaving our souls together, flooding me with his love, his regret, his absolute devotion. When we finally stopped, tangled and breathing as one, Edwin pulled me against his chest and pressed the gentlest kiss to my forehead. "I love you, Riley. The old you, the new you, every version of you. I'm never letting you go again. I cried softly into his neck, not from pain this time, but from the overwhelming beautiful weight of being truly seen, truly loved, and finally, completely claimed. From that day, Edwin proudly flaunted me wherever he went. He was done with school and now had to go join in his father's business in the city. He visited me often, showering me with expensive gifts I couldn't afford to own. Just a few weeks to my graduation in campus, he introduced me to his family and even had his dad to offer me a place in his company. Life was beautiful afterwards and we were never apart anymore. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting BL stories. Thank you for watching. See you next time.